going to start out with a little quiz today. I know guys like quizzes, so a good, Father's Day would be, just kidding. We are going to have a quiz. There's going to be two lists in front of you, and the question is, let's ask the question first. What set of attributes or characteristics best characterizes the values of Jesus Christ and his followers? Okay, so you got the question? Which set characterizes in the best way Jesus Christ and his followers? Now we're going to show you two sets of characteristics. Here's the first. Competence, power, effacing, that's not the right word. Someone got a wrong word in there. Achievement, I think it meant effective. Skills, proving oneself, accomplishment, objects, goal-oriented success, competition. Okay, you got the first list? Remember the question. Second list. Love, commitment, beauty, relationships, support, help, nurturing, feeling, sharing, relating, harmony. Let's go back to the first. Which set best characterizes Jesus Christ and his followers? This one or that one? How many would vote for the first one? No one. How many would vote for the second? How many don't want to be embarrassed to vote? Okay. All right. You don't want to be wrong. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's interesting. Most of us picked the second. This list comes from a book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Okay, remember that book? It's been out for a while. The first list is a list that characterizes men, often. Not that, I'm sorry, just generally speaking. The second is more characteristic of women, right? Love, commitment, beauty, relationships. I mean, those are nurturing feelings. Those are things that are probably resonate more effectively with women. The first list with men. So, that's just his list. It's from the book. Don't shoot me if you don't agree, but anyway. I think it has a point, though, and that is this, that we often think of what it means to be a follower of Jesus in terms of what in our culture are the more feminine characteristics. So what that does to guys is they look at this and they say, well, what does it mean to be a follower of Jesus? What do I have to become? Or very negatively, they say, well, the church is just for women. And that's true in most places. Across the United States, statistics show that on the average church, at least 60% worship attendants are women, 40 men. Now, if you're really quick with numbers, you can look around and see how we do compared to that. I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure we have more women here than men. And that's traditionally the case. Now, that's interesting because as you think of the other major religions of the world, Buddhism, Hinduism, they don't have any man shortage, a gender gap. Islam calls its men out, and they have no problem submitting and identifying with the Islamic religion, right? So why is it in Christianity we often see what it means to be a follower of Jesus in more feminine terms? What's happening in our culture? Just a few thoughts. Part one of your message outline, if you want to follow along, fill in the blanks, it's there for you. Gender confusion. We live in a time where a lot of people have said for a while, male, female, there's really no differences, bottom line. It's how we're raised, and boys are pushed in a certain direction, girls are pushed in a certain direction. But gender-wise, we try to erase differences. And so more and more, all kinds of weird and wacky things. You've probably heard about the 74-year-old Army veteran who's now going to get his sex change paid for by government funds, because he identifies as a female. And so there's all this confusion. What does it mean? Is there really a difference between male, female on a foundational level? Well, the Bible says, Jesus quoted it, he said, in the beginning, God created them in his image. He created them male and female. Now, I think we often think of what it means to be created in his image as we have a soul, and God just kind of put one soul in a female body, and he put another soul in a male body. I don't believe that's true. I think at a foundational level, being male and female, because both represent characteristics of God. At a very foundational level, being male, being female are very different. And there's good reason for that in God's plan and wisdom for things. But we live in a day where there's a lot of gender confusion. So women are saying, why don't guys, how do I help my husband come alive? He's so detached. Well, it's because maybe our culture has just emasculated him. What attracted to your husband? I'm speaking especially wives now. Not all of you are married, I understand. But some of you will be married someday, and hopefully this is helpful. When you were growing up, ladies, did you dream about having a domesticated guy? Just a nice guy. Or did you dream about a dashing prince who would come and sweep you off your feet? Well, maybe you didn't dream about either one, I don't know. But when you were thinking about maybe the day you'd get married, I doubt that you were thinking about just having a nice domesticated man who's boring. And yet, a lot of guys have gone that direction. Why? Well, there's a lot of gender confusion. So what happens with men, because we've had this pressure that something's wrong with men, they have to change, they're not right, they're messed up. And we're all messed up as human beings. I understand that. We're all sinners. But what happens is many men then, number two, either go to the extreme of becoming macho, prove my manhood, and they're basically posers. Because on the inside, they're asking the same question all the guys ask. Do I really have what it takes? Do I really have what it takes? So they compensate by, I'll show them. So the macho posers, or on the other side, they become passive and uninvolved. And there's a whole lot of guys that are perfectly content to sit in front of the TV and watch their sports, or watch the news, or play their games, but they're uninvolved. They're not really engaged in life, in marriage, and family. So a lot of guys go in one extreme or another, or just stay out of trouble, don't rock the boat. Am I right or not? A lot of guys are in one of those two categories. Not all, but a lot. And what that also leads to then, there's a lot of fatherlessness across our nation. The numbers of boys and girls, children today who are growing up without fathers is staggering. How that has changed just in a generation or two. Now, I'm not saying anything negatively about single moms. I have the greatest respect in the world for you if you are a mom raising a family by yourself. I don't know how you do it. You have the kids, you have your household, you have your work, you have all this stuff, and it's all on you. So what I'm saying is not in any way to minimize the role of the mom, and especially not to minimize what single moms across our society and within our own community are doing, okay? Please. But what I'm saying is fatherlessness is a plague in our society today. And statistics show that children who grow up without a father involved in their lives are much more likely to drop out of school, much more likely to be in drug addictions, much more likely to commit crime, be in prison, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you list all the best thing for young girls, for example, to protect them from abuse and neglect and the negative things that so many young girls experience is an involved dad. An involved dad increases graduation from college graduation rates by like 95%. To have a dad who's involved in a good way. Now, again, I want to say, I know a lot of us were not fathered by good dads. Some of us had really poor dads. Let's just be honest. Some of us never heard, I love you, from our dads. And some of us, who are a little older, have been poor dads. And we're sitting there today thinking, I don't want to hear this because I feel so guilty. Wherever we've been, our own experience or the experience that we've passed on to our children, okay, let's admit for what it is, but we don't have to stay there, okay? We can be healed from the poor fathering. We can move forward from our own poor fathering. We can see things in new ways. Today's a new day. You believe that? Okay, today's a new day. And as we learn, and I'm especially speaking to guys today, okay? and giving them hope, giving them encouragement. Ladies, you can listen in. But today's a new day. We can be men of God no matter what our experience has been in the past, right? We can break the patterns that have been maybe in our family for generations, because that's the power of the gospel, the power of grace, right? That's a good place to say yes. Okay, please. All right. Our boys are growing up with images, macho guys, heroes. What are the movies guys go to? Movies in which the hero saves the world against impossible odds, right? What kind of movies do women like to watch? Girly movies. I didn't say that. Okay. Movies where you have a heroine who meets the wonderful man with whom she can enter into a relationship, right? Yeah, it's all about relationship. And so in our culture, we've often defined Christianity as what? You can have a relationship with Jesus. A man who will be with you all the time. So does that sound good to you guys? No, I'm making light of it, but understand, Jesus in the Bible never talked about us having a personal relationship with Jesus. He called us to follow him. He called us into battle. He called us to take up a cross. He say, hey, guys, come and have a personal relationship with me. He told them, you know what, you follow me, you might not have a place to live or a place to lay down your head, and you're going to suffer for me, but I've got a mission for you. Come on, let's go. And people followed, right? But in our culture, we've lost sight of who the man Jesus really is. And so just for a few minutes here, I want to quickly take you through 4 stories. 4 stories that picture Jesus Christ as a real man. And I hope it holds up for us, especially us guys, the reality that he calls us to be like this. Not just be a nice guy, domesticated and boring. He calls us into a mission. Now, here's the first story. He did good. I mean, he did good things. He blessed people regardless of the cost. For example, so many times in the life of Jesus, he just set up situations where people reacted to him. He didn't walk through the Israeli countryside offering poetry readings, okay? You know, he was constantly stirring things up. For example, on a Sabbath, he went into the synagogue, Luke 6 tells us, and he was teaching, and a man was there whose right hand was shriveled. Now, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus. So they watched him closely, see if he would heal on the Sabbath. Now, key thing, it's the Sabbath day, their day of worship. They had all kinds of laws about what you could or could not do on the Sabbath. You couldn't heal on the Sabbath, interestingly. But Jesus knew what they were thinking, and he said to the man with a shriveled hand, "Get up and stand in front of everyone." So he got up and stood there. Then Jesus said to them, "I ask you, which is lawful on the Sabbath? Do good or do evil? Save life or to destroy it?" He didn't even wait for their answer. He looked at them all and then said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He did so, and his hand was completely restored. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were furious and began to discuss with one another what they might do to Jesus. See the picture? Now, if I was Jesus, I would have probably taken him around the corner and healed him without causing any trouble, right? But here he says, he knows what they're thinking. It's the Sabbath. I wonder if he'll heal on the Sabbath. He wouldn't dare do this right in front of all of us. He says, "Stand up. Put out your hand." Healed him right there. And immediately the Pharisees, teachers of the law, they're fuming. They're already planning to get rid of him. They got to do something about this guy, right? My point is, Jesus didn't just walk around trying to be a nice guy. He had a mission to do, and he wasn't afraid to step out against all odds and do it. Here's another story, how he confronted the powers of darkness. I mean, he recognized evil around him and was unafraid, unashamed to go after it. They went across, they meaning Jesus and the disciples, across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. Now, the region of the Gerasenes were a pagan area. It was a pagan area. It was not in Jewish territory. So why is he doing that? Why is he going out of bounds, in a sense, out of the country? He gets there, gets out of the boat. A man with an impure spirit, an evil spirit, came from the tombs to meet him. You maybe remember this story. The man lived in the tombs. No one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been chained, hand and foot. He tore the chains apart. This guy has demonic power. He broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out, cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice. Now you got to picture this. This guy is bleeding. He's probably naked, and he's vicious. And no one has been able to tame him, subdue him, hold him down. Shouts at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High?" He recognizes Jesus. Son of the Most High God. In God's name, don't torture me. For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." Wow. I love that story. Here's Jesus. He goes across the lake specifically to attack the powers of darkness and to demonstrate his power even over the demonic world. Wow. This is no guy who's timid, who's trying to stay out of trouble. Third story just shows to me, here's a man who was passionate. He was assertive. I couldn't think of other words to put there, but I mean, he stepped out. He was strong. He had an opinion. He acted upon it. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves. Others sitting at tables exchanging money. Now, there's a purpose. People would come from a distance. It's Passover. They certainly wouldn't be able to drag a lamb for the sacrifice along hundreds of miles, so they would buy them there. But the problem was they were selling them in the temple courts and probably price gouging, taking advantage of the pilgrims who came from a distance to worship. Sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords. Now picture this. Drove them all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle, scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who had doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered. They're just watching this. You imagine? You're one of the Jesus' friends and you're just blown away. Calm down, Jesus, calm down. Zeal for your house will consume me. Now, this wasn't just a moment of anger where Jesus just kind of reacted. It says he made a whip out of cords. He had to take time to find some cords. And then he had to fashion it into a whip. Now, I don't know how long that took. But this is a man who knew exactly what he had to do, took deliberate, intentional steps to prepare, and then he carried it out. Can you imagine the scene? Sheep and cattle. You know, once one starts running and mooing and doing crazy things, you know, the whole thing becomes a chaotic scene, right? It's got to be crazy. And he's chasing people out of there. One man, single-handedly. Here's a guy. Well, I'm just saying that picture we saw of Sunday school Jesus. I don't think that's what he looked like. I think he grew up working. I think he was strong. But more than that, he had the strength of character, of integrity, the Spirit of God. And he knew God's mission. Now, I'm not suggesting, please, don't misunderstand, because this is what has often happened when we start talking about being men of courage and men of action and so on. So, oh, we just want guys to be macho and out of control and, you know, all the crazy. No. Jesus was very intentional. Jesus was holy. His anger was not an ungodly anger, just being vicious and out of control. He was without sin. I'm not calling men to suddenly, I'm in charge here. Because this same Jesus said, those who lead have to serve. You want to be great? Become a servant. How do we love our wives? How do we love and lead our children? By serving them, by giving ourselves for them. It's not about macho. It's not about, I'm simply saying, I think we need to do some correction on our vision of who Jesus was so that we can see him as a man who was strong. And we're calling men to follow this Jesus, not some wimpy Sunday school Jesus. Am I making sense? You still with me, or are you already thinking Father's Day lunch? Okay. One more story. He was faithful to God's mission. He knew what he was sent to do, and he was faithful to do that. This is such an interesting story. John 18, Jesus and his friends, his disciples, are in the Garden of Gethsemane, night before he died. Judas has already made a deal with the authorities. He's going to lead them to Jesus, betray him, turn him over. So Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and Pharisees. They were carrying torches, lanterns, and weapons. Now, this isn't just a moonlight stroll by these guys. I mean, they're prepared for battle, right? They got their weapons with them, their torches. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked him. This is just so good. Who is it you want? He knew what they wanted. Who is it you want? Now, it's dark. It's nighttime. They maybe didn't recognize him right away. Maybe you got a picture of this. And they say, Jesus of Nazareth. I'm he. Here I am. I mean, doesn't this sound a little strange? Here I am. And Judas, the traitor, was standing there with him. When Jesus said, I am he, they drew back and fell to the ground. I mean, it just blew them away. That Jesus just stepped up and said, here I am. Wow. He knew, because he'd been talking for days and weeks and months, that he was going to go to Jerusalem, he was going to be arrested, he was going to be beaten. He had told the disciples all about that. The time has come. He does not shy away from what he came to do. He is a man. He is strong. He is committed. He is courageous. He is bold. And he goes to the final sacrifice. Now, guys, that's the man I'm calling you to follow. Not some wimpy Sunday school Jesus picture. And I believe if he stood before us today, he would call us out. Say, come on, guys. I don't care what's happening out that culture with gender confusion and everybody's not sure what it means to be male and female. Hey, I've shown you. Just get to know this word. And we got work to do, guys. We got a culture to change. We got families to fight for. We got wives who need us to love them. To love them. Not to waste away our world in front of a TV set or just pull away. Our kids need us. And if you're older, there are kids around you who need you. I mean, those of us my age, my generation, we need to be mentors. We need to be coaches. We need to stand up. We need to show the younger generation marriage can work. And if you've made mistakes, okay, let's be honest with them and let's go on. Let's break the hold that sin has had in so many families' lives. Are you with me? So, be men of honor. I just want to give you hope and encouragement, guys. Be men of honor. We can. The call is to follow Jesus. To follow Jesus. He didn't say, hey, guys, come, enter into a relationship with me. He said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross daily, and follow me. Luke 9:23. Deny yourselves. Take up your cross daily and follow me. What he's saying is, listen, it's not about you. Not about you. Unless you're willing to come to a place and recognize that it's not about you. It's about submitting to me. Because if you want to hold on to your life, you're going to lose it. But if you submit your life to me, you'll find life, real life. You know? One of my favorite movie lines is William Wallace in Braveheart, where he says, every man dies, but not every man really lives. Right? I want to live. Really live. You know? And it's through Christ that we really live. He says, when you die to yourself, to your agendas, your ways, your way of thinking, all that kind of stuff, then you can truly live when you know me. Huh? The world says now, you just be who you are. You know, exert yourself, you know, and nobody's going to take care of you, take care of yourself. No. You know where that's leading us? Look around us. Self-centered, either macho or withdrawn guys who are dying on the inside because they don't have a sense of purpose or peace or direction. And hear the words of Jesus. Come, follow me. It's not going to be easy. He never said it'd be easy. That's the other thing I think we've done in the Christian church too often. It said, you know, come follow Jesus and he'll, you know, everything will work out. How many know when you step out and follow Jesus, sometimes it gets tougher? Yeah. You say, wow, I just thought, well, don't be surprised. He said that. That's what would happen. Come, follow Jesus. Maybe today's the day where you say, either here in worship, you can do it right here, you can go home and get on your knees and just say, Lord, I haven't been able to make it. I need you. Those words will transform your life. Accept what Christ has done and move forward with him. And if you want help with that, you want to talk about that with somebody, I would love to do that with you. Follow Jesus. To be men of honor, we need to follow Jesus. We need to submit to him, trust him, and yield to his word. Be courageous. Here's the second one. Be courageous. Jesus was a man who knew his mission. Well, you say, well, I don't know what my mission is. Are you married? Then your number one mission is to love your wife. Not the way you think she should be loved, but the way she wants to be loved, okay? Now, how do I know that? Ask her. That's scary. It is. It takes courage to sit down eye to eye with the woman you love and say, honey, I know I don't always love you the way you need to be loved, but I want to learn. Help me. And wives, at that moment, don't say something like, well, it's about time, you idiot, you get with the program. You know. Because you will just take his feet right from under him. You will. And you talk all about the male ego and say, oh, you know, why these guys get around? It is what it is. Because when we open our hearts to you and you cut us down, it'll destroy us. It'll take away any chance you ever have of truly being loved the way you want to be loved. So, I nag my husband all the time. I tell him, it's like we think, well, maybe 10 years down the road, our husband's all of a sudden going to stand up and say, I just had an epiphany. You've been negative to me these last 10 years because you wanted me to learn how to be positive. You are not going to get a positive, loving husband by being negative. So a challenge to the wives is honor and applaud even our little steps because that's what we need. We need to know that, okay, this was scary. That first question, that was scary, but okay, I can do this, right? Because the last thing guys want to do is fail. And that's why we often don't try, because we don't want to fail. right? Maybe I told part of this story. I didn't plan to tell this story. Can I tell you a story? Okay. What can you do? You're just sitting here. Well, you could get up and leave. So a few weeks ago, I got a phone call. It was from Fort Bliss. This woman was doing a survey of churches. And she was asking, because they were going to publish in a Fort Bliss publication, churches that were friendly to couples who were same gender, and churches in which same-gender couples would likely not be welcomed. So she says, how would you treat a same-gender couple with kids who came into your church? I said, we would do our best to show them the love of Christ and welcome them warmly. Well, are you for or against same-gender marriage? I said, if somebody came into our church, I would do my best to welcome them and treat them with the love of Christ. Oh, but sir, I have to put you in one list or the other. So she rephrased the question, So I said, well, which one would you? I said, ma'am, if somebody came to our church, and I said the same thing. You see, you don't need to answer the question the way they want it answered. You have to tell them what you want to tell them, right? So I just kept saying, I don't want to be on one list or the other. Just put me down as, welcoming. Well, she didn't have that form, I said, well, tell your commanding officer that I just find this whole list thing just negative. It's divisive. She said, have you ever been in the military? I said, no, but my son is. She said, listen, you don't tell a colonel anything. Sorry, Mark. Mark's different, but I'm just telling you what she told me. So she got going, and then she says, I don't know where this came from, but she said, my husband, why don't guys ever change diapers? I said, well, I changed a lot of diapers. I had 4 kids, changed a lot of diapers. Really? You changed diapers? Yeah, changed a lot of diapers. Huh. Well, I wonder why my husband never changes diapers. I can't answer for your husband. Well, then she talked about different things, what her husband didn't do. And I said, well, ma'am, one thing is about guys is if they can't succeed, they don't want to try. Because the last thing they want to do is fail. So a lot of times guys just don't do what you want them to do because they don't know how to do it right. So it's not that they're bad. It's just that, there's a lot of things I don't even try to fix because I know I can't do it. And I don't want to feel like a failure. So that's just the way it is. Well, and then she got talking about this German guy. And clearly it was an African-American couple because I could tell by her accent. And she said, this German guy came and I won't repeat what he said, but he said something about her to her husband. And she said he decked him. 2 blows, he was out cold. I said, good. She said, what? You're a pastor and you condone violence? I said, in this case, yes. I said, ma'am, your husband might not change diapers, but your husband will defend your dignity. I like this guy. So we talked for an hour. It was crazy. So anyway, my point was what? Oh yeah, guys don't want to try if they're not sure that they can succeed. So women, you got to help us. And don't nag us. Don't tell us what to do. That's the last thing you want to do is tell us what to do. Because guys, we don't want to be told what to do, right? Come on, guys, here's your chance. We don't want to be told what to do. Okay. But we want your input. We really do. And I tell guys all the time, you would be a fool if you do not listen to your wife's advice. Now, you don't have to act upon it every time. But God has put you two together for a reason, because she has much to offer to you. And if you don't want to take her advice or listen to it or consider it, then you're a fool. But at the same time, I always tell women, don't tell them what to do. Let them ask. Maybe say it in different ways, but I really got off on that one. Be courageous. Be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous. Joshua 1, 8, 9. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Haven't I commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Man, we're called to be courageous. And we can be courageous as followers of Christ because we have the Spirit of Christ within us. And he's no wimpy guy. So then, last thing, love and lead those close to you. Love and lead those close to you. We've had a men's group that meets at IHOP on Saturday mornings. We've been going through a study called Every Man a Warrior. And we're ready to start book 3. If anybody's interested, talk to me. We can get you in. But anyway, we memorized a lot of verses and these key thoughts. And the first is our marriage commitment. It is my privilege to show my love for Jesus by caring for my wife. To love her, to show her honor, to try to understand her, and to give up my life and rights for her. That's my commitment. And we also memorized some thoughts about raising children. And they go like this. It is the father's God-given responsibility to train his children. Children get their self-image from what they believe Dad thinks about them. Now get that. It may not be what you think about them, but if on the basis of your behavior and your conversations, they think you think this about them, if you follow that, that's what's going to determine how they see themselves. So let me say it again. Children get their self-image from what they believe Dad thinks about them. And the last one is this. And I forgot it. Put it up there. Words. Yeah. Words spoken to a child determine his destiny. It comes from Proverbs where it says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Now, during our men's huddle at the end of after the worship, I'm going to give you all, guys, if you want to come forward, give you cards with those statements on them. And I would invite you to memorize them. It is my privilege to show my love for Jesus by caring for my wife. To love her, to honor her, to try to understand her, and to give up my life and rights for her. And guys, if you're not married, you have influence in other lives, people's lives, and that's really true for all of us. It's our privilege to show our love for Jesus by how we care for people around us, right? How we honor them, how we give up ourselves for them.